Coming to you live from the IYFA stream over on Twitch. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Adventurous Publications. So as you can see up on the screen here, we have a Michael Knowles video that he recently did about a month or so back with Joshua Zatkoff. And Joshua is an evangelist who comes from a life of heavy sin, a life of heavy drug use, you know, like someone else on screen right now. And they have a conversation about psychedelics and hallucinations on psychedelics and the spiritual and mystical implications of those things. And the entire conversation, right, drugs. And the entire conversation is very clearly slanted in one direction. It's very clearly slanted in the all drugs are bad direction. And I respectfully disagree. First of all, from a secular point of view, MDMA and psilocybin have both demonstrated clinical value, especially psilocybin as it's neurogenerative. And I don't want to get too far into detail as it is still technically federally illegal, but there's someone in my life who suffered significant brain damage who has been microdosing psilocybin, combining it with hoopazine and physical training, and they've basically completely recovered from that stroke. It's like it didn't happen, almost. This is something that modern medicine largely tells us is impossible. You know, you're going to be able to recover a certain amount past your stroke, and then you'll hit a wall, and the brain damage that's left is what's left. Psilocybin made it possible to break through that barrier. MDMA has shown clinical value in one-on-one settings for PTSD and other forms of trauma. So I think there's a very important conversation to be had about the medical value of these drugs, about the spiritual value of these drugs, and that's what I want to talk about. And I want to also talk about the spiritual side of the use of some of these substances. 1 second, drugs. Drugs bad, okay? Exactly. That's exactly Michael Knowles' attitude. Exactly. And thank you, Z. The pharmaceutical company is like, here, take this synthetic that'll shut down your kidneys. It makes you think about suicide constantly, and if you take too much of it, or if you take it with alcohol, it could literally kill you. But, you know, psilocybin's bad, even though you can't OD on it, and it causes your brain cells to grow back. Exactly. You know, just government things. Yeah. The friend in my life I'm referencing is pretty much fully recovered from their stroke. And psilocybin, I attribute it mostly to the physical training and the psilocybin, because they've been done in conjunction. And psilocybin has been shown in the lab to cause neurogenesis. No, don't take the things you can grow in your house. Take this pill I make money from. Okay, exactly. So I've got a bunch of timestamps here. That we're going to talk about. Like I said, I want to talk about the medical and the spiritual aspect of this conversation. So without further ado, let's get into it. Sent something on Discord you may or may not enjoy. All right, bro, I'll check it out after this. Welcome in, Lord Lino. Quick shout out to my adoptive brother, Lord Lino. If you like wholesome guys who stream game content and interact with their community, go check out Lord Lino on Twitch. Truly a great friend, and same for Twisted. Although he's not as much of a positive, you know, kind face. He's more of a I'm a former pilot. Go fuck yourself face. I forgot you were doing a YouTube video. Thanks. No, you're good, Twisted. All right, let's start.
Angels having, no, there's many demons. It's not just some heroin. So, oh God, all that. This is when I'm around 20 years old, I think, around 2012, when this happened. I see this, and I think that they are angels at the time.
I love this meme. That's right, you are still a pilot. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
They were light. They seemed loving. They seemed to have...
Is DMT good for you? Yes. Your brain produces it naturally. You need it. You have to have DMT in your brain to do things like dream and sleep properly. Guys, I'm trying to film a video here. One more command, and I'm gonna fucking turn them off.
have my interests at heart.
Okay.
So angels at the time. They were light. They seemed loving. They seemed to have my interests at heart. So I did think they were angels at the time. And afterwards, I was like rocked. I mean, that will really mess up your view of life for a while. Like I didn't even know how to look at life the same anymore after that. And I was, but then it's like, oh, I gotta do it again. I gotta meet them again, whatever it takes, right? Like, and
give me some more poison so I can meet those angels again.
Yeah.
Okay, right there. That remark from Michael Knowles. Give me some more poison. Who says it's poison, Michael? You? What background do you have in medical science or psychology to make that claim, Michael? Psilocybin's not poison. If you look at the molecule, it's nearly identical to serotonin. It binds to the serotonin receptors in your stomach and brain. It causes your brain to generate new brain cells. It unfolds pathological neurological connections that are associated with mental illness. It's medicinal. Now, like any other medicine, it can be abused. There's high potential to abuse anything that makes you feel really good and causes a large psychoactive reaction. Anytime you're high out of your mind and you don't know what's going on because you're hallucinating balls to the walls, there's some danger associated with that, mostly in what you're physically going to do, not in overdosing, because you can't overdose on psilocybin. The only way you'll have a bad reaction to psilocybin mushrooms is if you're allergic to the mushroom itself, and that's the same thing as having a food allergy. It really irritates me when conservatives just put this blanket of it's poison on anything that's illegal or anything that's psychoactive. There's no objective measure you can put psilocybin against that says it's poison. You can't overdose on it. It's not bad for you. It causes no permanent damage. It causes no damage, in fact. Worst you're going to do is throw up or shit yourself. And there's plenty of pharmaceuticals that'll make you do that. Why does this dude look like he's wearing a prison jumper? I have no idea. For real, he looks like the CCP is on the other room. He's got to go back, dig the hole out of his cell. All right, so the next thing I want to cover is at 109. Where is it? Here we go.
That was like the first thing I started noticing. About 2 weeks after that, I would start praying. I'd be like in prayer, worshiping Jesus, whatever. And it would just feel like a love bomb would fall on me of like, it reminded me of how I felt when I was on mushrooms, except it was 100 times more pure. Like that, like uncontrollable laughter and just joy I felt on mushrooms. It made that look like creek water compared to Dasani or something. You know what I mean? It was like, I thought that was joy, you know? And I would have to do mushrooms to have that joy, but that wasn't even real joy. That was like artificial joy. I was laughing. I thought it was joy, but I was getting like covered in this just love. And I mean, it freaked me out because I literally felt like I was high almost. Like it was like I was high on life and like I'd be laughing. I had joy. All I wanted to do was read my Bible and pray. And
so he makes the comparison here between the joy he feels basking in the Holy Spirit of Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit of the Trinity, and the joy you feel when you're on psilocybin mushrooms. So look, right, Michael Knowles does have a very smug face. He really does. I mean, I like his content. I think he's a good guy, but he has resting smug face. So anyways, as someone who, I've had genuine interactions with the Holy Spirit. I have had spiritual moments in church, stone cold sober, where I felt like I was having a tremendously profound religious experience, spiritual experience. feelings of light hitting me, heat radiating through my body, pain in my heart, my emotional pain just easing away, feelings of God, not speaking to me, but comforting me. I've had profound religious and spiritual experiences. I've also done a lot of mushrooms. I understand the perspective that mushrooms are a pale imitation of a religious experience, but in my personal opinion, they're two totally separate things. Thank you very much, my love. Ooh, egg. Nice. So, to say that mushrooms are, counterfeit or an imitation religious experience, I disagree with that totally. They're different things. The religious and spiritual experience that you have sober is different than the one you have on psilocybin because of the effect psilocybin has on your brain. When you're on psilocybin, you form new neural connections. Your brain and your mind warp and twist, and you are able to think in ways you can't think sober because the way it lights up your brain biochemically. It's just not the same thing. And to say that there's no value in what psilocybin does to your brain is foolhardy. It's fallacious. There are people that have been literally cured of schizophrenia. There are case studies of girls. I read this one case study. This girl went to a bonfire by a lake, did a massive dose of mushrooms. She came back after she sobered up. She was cured of her schizophrenia and her bipolar. She'd been in and out of counseling, been on multiple mental health medications, did one fat dose of mushrooms, and all of those problems disappeared. You're going to tell me the religious experience you have on mushrooms isn't good for your soul? You're going to tell me that there's no value in having that transcendent experience where your entire view of reality is challenged and rearranged so that you can see things from a new perspective? It's just objectively not true. There's people whose lives have been greatly improved for the better by psilocybin. Coke and heroin will kill you for sure. So, let's move on to the next thing. Let's see, 119.
So I was trying to help other addicts. I'm trying to help, and it was like, I was trying to lead them to Jesus, and it wasn't working the way I thought it should. And so I started getting prideful. I started thinking I was God's, boss almost. And that's kind of, because I'm like, well, I've been doing this for 2 years. I don't know what's really coming of it. My life has changed, but I said I want to see other people's lives change too. Or I don't feel, it's like I don't feel like I could really be confident in this if it's not producing fruit for other people. And so I found this in my research one day. I found this article about this mystic group that would basically took mushrooms as a form of basically connecting to God. Like it was normal, and that's what the Bible referred to as manna. So it was this rabbit hole I was.
They said that manna was
mushrooms.
Was shrooms. Wow.
They said it popped up every morning. Like,
yeah, when I read that passage about the manna, it doesn't exactly resemble shrooms to me, but that's very funny that they're saying this because with mushrooms in particular, but all of it, DMT, acid, all the psychedelic stuff, there is this weird culture where if you see a heroin addict on the street, you say, oh, there's a junkie, there's another bum, hope he doesn't kill himself. But then someone says, oh, I do shrooms all the time. You say, wow, you must be so spiritual. Wow, you're both poisoning yourselves.
that.
There it is again, the false equivalency. There is no equivalency between meth, heroin, cocaine, PCP, crocodile, jenkem, all these drugs that are tremendously terrible for you, that destroy your brain, that rot your muscles away, that make your organs fail. There's no comparison between those things and mushrooms. And the fact that he keeps doing this false equivocation proves he's biased and he's pushing a narrative. He has a personal agenda. He thinks this thing is bad, and he wants to convince you it's bad, despite the mounting, the increasing amount of medical evidence that says psilocybin is actually really good for you, both from a physiological brain perspective and from a psychological perspective. He has an agenda, and he's pushing it in the face of the facts. And that's why I have a problem with this, both with this attitude and with Michael's actions in the way he slanted this video. And that's why I had to say something. What do you think about synthetic hallucinogens? I think psilocybin is way better. I've done LSD as well, and I don't think LSD is nearly as harmful as, a lot of classic conservatives and fearmongers on the right like to make it sound. It's a lot more potent. LSD, you need a lot less LSD to go a lot further in terms of how high you get and how strong your hallucinations are. But I have a story I've told before where I did a pretty fat dose of LSD, and I heard the voice of God, and he showed me something very beautiful. I call it the Soul Forge. I went to a room. The interior of the room was the shape of a diamond, and in the center, and it was spinning clockwise, and the room was counterclockwise, and in the center of the room was a massive diamond. It was spinning clockwise, and the room was made of these crystal panels that were reflecting opalescent light everywhere. And God said, "This is where I create souls." It was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And then I said, "Wow, that's really fucking cool. Thank you for showing me." And he said, "I wanted to show you something beautiful because you're in a dark place right now." Something to that effect, because I was going through a very bad breakup. And that beautiful thing was like a beacon of light in the very dark place I was in my life. And then I sobered up, and I've never forgotten that room. We should use on the Russians in Ukraine. Dude, aerosolized LSD bombs. Now that's some interesting chemical warfare strategies. I could get behind that. All right, 123. Let's go.
People get so sick of the anxiety and the hemming and hawing and the moral conscience telling you no, that you think, well, here's one way I can shut up that moral conscience. I'm just going to do it, and then I won't have that anxiety of anticipation.
Yeah. I think that's probably what it was. It was like, you know what? If you're not doing it tonight, it's just going to bother you. So I did it, and I ate. It was a eighth of mushrooms, and just for context, like that was the normal dose that I would take. That was like a normal go-to dose. It's definitely on the higher end as far as like when you're looking at microdosing and stuff. It's a lot lower than that. But I had taken much larger doses too. I had taken double
Of everything.
Yeah. And so to me it was like, this is kind of mild, right? That's how I'm thinking.
So the dose he was referring to, you can come watch the video. He was referring to an eighth, which is 3.5 grams, and he talks about this big massive trip he has. And I just want to make the point that potency varies a great deal among mushrooms. You can have this strain where 3.5 grams is a very mild high where you don't even have full-blown visual hallucinations. And this strain, 3.5 grams, can make you out of your mind. The strain that my friend has been microdosing with to recover from their stroke, very potent strain. I did an eighth of that strain, and it was like I did 7 grams. And I have done up to 11 grams in the past. That's fun. I just wanted to make that point. I'm not sure why I wanted to make it, but I wanted to make it.
So I take it, and it starts off good. The first 20 minutes, I'm just getting in my vibe, and
You hated... See, I love hallucinating. I love seeing the things that my mind shows me.
And just listen to the music, and it's all good vibes.
Okay, the next one is actually just a few seconds after this.
And then at one point, my friend says, "Hey, these guys want to go to the bar. Do you want to come?" I said, "No." I said, "I just ate. I don't want to go to the bar." And so he said, "Well, I'm gonna go. You can stay here if you want. That's fine. Is that cool?" I said, "All right, I guess."
Hey.
I'm stuck here now, kind of thing. And so he leaves. And this stuff, it takes like probably 30 minutes to kick in. So in the meantime, you start kind of feeling your stomach will start to turn. There's like this almost anxiety kind of thing. Like you feel it kind of starting to creep up on you. And so I already had to feel that. So I said, "We're about it."
That's because it's very similar to the serotonin molecule. Your stomach gets high before you do. Most of your serotonin receptors are in your stomach because your stomach makes most of your serotonin. Fun fact. I just wanted to give that additional context for anyone who might watch this, come back and watch this because of my video, and say, well, why is that? Why does that? Why does he feel that way? So that's why your stomach gets high before your brain does.
Go into this.
That's also why some people throw up.
My friend, he walks out the door. The second he walked out the door, it was like that feeling of sleep paralysis, the feeling of like demons and evil.
Okay,
walks in the room.
28.
It was like this transfer. Like he left, and then within, like, it was like someone was pulling me somewhere, and so it was like, by the time she gets there, I'm not able to really function at this point. I couldn't breathe well. And so she's trying to talk, like she thinks this is just normal Josh coming in the car, like, hey, why didn't anyone? And I said, I can't talk right now. I said, just pray. I said, just pray for me. I didn't even have time to explain to her what was going on. By this point, I couldn't breathe. It was like and she's even like, she's like, what's wrong? Like, cause I'm like, I'm gasping for breath, and I'm feeling my body like go in and out. It's like I'm here talking to you, and the next thing you know, it's like boom, snapped into like a dream realm. It's like in and out, like in and out of consciousness. And then, but it would be a black void. So we're going through this whole car ride, and every now and then I would try to like tell her like, just I can't talk right now. You know, I'm like.
I wanted to make a note about this. The feeling of not being able to get a breath, pretty standard. One thing that I notice consistently when I take mushrooms, there's a pretty long period where it feels like I can't get a full breath, and I will fully breathe in and fully exhale, and I still feel like I need more air. Normal side effect. You're not actually suffocating. You're breathing fine. It's a standard side effect. Some people that happens to them and they start panicking, which obviously makes it worse. As long as you have the presence of mind or the muscle memory to just deep breathe. I received breath training as a kid because I went to therapy and I had panic attacks, and my therapist was like, we're going to teach you breathing techniques. And to this day, those breathing techniques are what stave off my anxiety in my day-to-day life. All you need to do is breathe. So I wanted to make that point. And we got one more thing. 144. Let's go.
Faith. So the second he touches you, oh yeah, there's the body again. Oh right. Oh, there I am.
That's you gave me a piece of it, because the funny thing about this story is there's so much that I'm still piecing. Probably the rest of my life I'll be piecing together parts of it.
Still a little bit ahead.
All I could see was his eyes, and his eyes were like almost like the earth. Like they were multiple colors. It wasn't just like, oh, they're blue or brown. It was like there was shades of green, there was shades of blue. It was just like they magnetically like pull you into him, and then it also simultaneously pulls itself into you. It's like this. So everything's just fading away, and it's just he's staring in my eyes. He smiles at me, and so he's smiling at me as if he's happy to see me. I'm thinking about what just happened, but he's looking at me as if like he was happy to see me. And he said, maybe we shouldn't do that again. And he smiled at me like, I love you. And so in that moment.
So he was talking about the last time he did drugs. That was, he saw Jesus, and Jesus pulls him in and says, let's not do that again. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is because Joshua here, he has this experience where Jesus tells him, hey, let's not do that again. And he takes that to be a be-all, end-all prescription against no one should do this ever. And that's just wrong. That's a wrong way of thinking. Why should someone who has benefit left to receive from a medicine stop taking a medicine just because someone else has been hurt by it? Why should someone who only has 1 or 2 beers when he gets off work every night so that he can relax and unwind from his day stop drinking because his neighbor is an alcoholic? A mass prescription against psilocybin because some people have bad experiences, or the Lord pushes some of us away from these things because they are stumbling blocks for us in our spiritual journey, that's not a legitimate justification to say no one should use these substances, especially for medical purposes. I don't think you should just go out and use these things willy-nilly. They're very powerful drugs. They have a lot of potential to fuck up your life if you're not careful. But like any powerful tool, they have a lot of potential to help people. Psilocybin, MDMA, LSD, they're just like a firearm. It's an incredibly powerful tool. If you use it incorrectly, it can destroy your entire life, destroy other people's lives. If you use it properly, it can make your life a hell of a lot better. It's made my life a hell of a lot better. I fell out of my Christian faith mid-high school. I was lukewarm. I believed God was real, but I didn't have a relationship with him. I just kind of took my spirituality for granted. I was ignoring that part of my life. And in my early 20s, I began experimenting with drugs. And my drug use was instrumental in my return to God. The number of times I had a religious or spiritual experience or gained insight into my life and the nature of the world I'm in while high, that I was able to pull out of that high and actually put forward into work in my life, there was a lot of them. And he talks about that a little bit. He talks in this interview about, things that you glean, wisdom that you procure while you're high, and a lot of the times you completely lose it when you sober up. I've lost a lot of the things that I came up with while I was high. A lot of them I wish I could remember. I know there was something great there, but I can't remember it. But there's things that I've gleaned while high that I absolutely did retain. And I was able to put them into action in my life. They changed my way of looking at the world. They made my life more bearable. And I returned to God in my late 20s in a profound way, largely because of the psychedelic experiences that I'd had that largely contributed to my absolute certainty that God is real. So, I just wanted to hit people with this because there is both a religious, a spiritual, and a practical medical justification for the use of psilocybin. It should be legalized for medical purposes and therapeutic uses. It should be more thoroughly researched. I feel the same way about MDMA because of the early evidence that it's extremely beneficial for treating PTSD. These drugs need to be better studied. They need to be better understood. And people like Michael Knowles, God bless him, I believe he has good intentions, but people like Michael Knowles on our side of the fence that shit on these drugs without any knowledge of what they actually do, and they interview people like Joshua here and slant the interview in a very specific direction to push a narrative that these drugs are all bad all the time. It's not productive. And there's a lot of people that might get help from these drugs that won't, because big voices like Michael Knowles are pushing this lie. So, Michael, if you saw on the 1 in a million that you see this, like I said, I really respect you. I think you're a good-natured person. I like your content. You're wrong about this. And you need to do your research. And I'd love to have, and on the 1 in a million you see this and you're willing, I'd love to have a conversation with you about it. This has been Zach Pieper. Hit that sub button, share this video around with people. Do all the things. Follow me on Rumble because it won't be much longer before YouTube kicks all the conservatives off. I'll be streaming on Kick very soon. Currently, right now, I'm streaming on Twitch as I film this. So thank you all for being here. I keep doing the hand thing again. I hate it when I do this. Welcome to the adventure.